Welcome to This Week in Evansville. We're just counting down the days till the election, and there's just a lot of anticipation about what's going to happen on Election Day here. And we've been talking to a lot of different candidates lately, and I've really been looking forward to this opportunity to sit down and have a conversation with Dr. Richard Moss. Dr. Moss is running for the 8th Congressional District seat, and that is... You've got a crowd in that race, don't you?
Well, I guess a lot of people want to be a congressman now that Larry Bouchon vacated it or decided not to run. So, yeah. Yeah,
let's see, 8 Republican candidates. There are 4 Democrats running, which I don't think that's ever happened either.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's this is quite a...
maybe they smell blood. They think they have a shot at it.
It'll be, voter turnout so far has been a little bit light.
Right.
So we're hoping that Election Day is going to be very, very busy at the polling centers.
Yep, probably will be, and we'll certainly be there, shaking hands on that day, mainly in Evansville.
All right. Well, I'm really glad that you took some time to join us here. Let's talk a little bit about you first before we talk about issues. All right.
Right.
Because I really like people to get a chance to know a person. So you're a doctor. And talk a little bit about your practice and what you do there.
So I am an ENT, ear, nose, throat, head and neck surgeon, and I have been in private practice for 35 years in Jasper, Indiana. And we're busy, still at it. Yeah, one of the few doctors in private practice left, and I think that's one of the real downfalls of medicine is they're all employed, and that's terrible because we've lost that independent voice of medicine. Doctors, they're all employed. They got to do as they're told.
It used to be that the doctors were in private practice and they would get rights to work with a hospital, but they weren't employees of the hospital.
Oh, yeah. You'd have privileges there. So
right.
You can admit the patients, and you can do surgery there. That's, of course, routine. They have their credentialing committee, and, that's a combined doctor, hospital endeavor, all the various committees and so forth. But yeah, you were self-employed, you were private. They couldn't fire you or hire you. You were doing your own thing.
And we're seeing all of these doctors groups selling off their practices and being absorbed into the big hospital groups now.
Well, they're selling, but a lot of them, when they just start off, they're being picked up and they're employed. Mm-hmm. And just to say, that is a major change in medicine. When I started 35 years ago, there were nobody that was employed. They were in private practice. And now I'd say it's virtually no one that is self-employed. And that is a big loss to have lost the independent voice of medicine, of doctors in this country. It's a real shame. What
drew you into deciding that you want to run for Congress? Is this your first? I mean, this run isn't your first, but this is the only office you run for, is it? Or
yes, that's true. Mm-hmm. Well, Congress, I write a lot of columns. Let's just say, if I can use this, I believe I'm a reasonable political thinker, and I have dozens, really hundreds of columns and essays and. That I've written on, fairly complicated political topics, policy topics, whether it's the Middle East or immigration, the budget spending, the subprime mortgage crisis. I mean, there's a long article or essay that I've written about that. So I think I have good knowledge about it. So for me, it was at the federal level. But I will tell you, I also came out with something called the Red State Manifesto, because in the end, I don't know that we can bridge the gaps. I mean, really, do you want to live with these people, that want to, kill your babies, mutilate your children, and let the criminals out and open up our borders? I don't know if that division can be bridged, or those gaps can be bridged. And so there is a fallback solution, which I've gone into at length, 25 points. And I refer to it as my Red State Manifesto. It's all the things that red states need to do, because in the end, the left controls everything. Whatever it is, over the last 60 years, they have infiltrated all of our institutions. They are at the commanding heights of all of our institutions. And but what's whether it's the media, our universities, politics, the government, and so forth. Wall Street, all the places that, the Chamber of Commerce and the whole thing. But what's the one thing that we still have power over? It's our red states. So finally, if it comes to it, and there is a division, with Civil War, we don't know, but there becomes a great divide in the country. We've got red states to fall back on. And so I call it my red state manifesto. That's our fallback plan if at the national level it just falls apart and we fail. Plan B, let's call it. But I think we have an option there as well.
So what was the breaking point for you that made you decide that it was time for you to jump in to the arena for the first time?
Well, now you know I ran against Bouchon in 16 and 18. So you mean this time?
So I'm talking about in 16. What was your breaking point there that made you say, I've got to run for that seat?
Well, Larry Bouchon, is your classic rhino. I mean, he was a Boehner boy, and then a Paul Ryan guy, classic rhino. So his family lived in D.C. He did all the wrong things. He voted for every omnibus bill. He never came out on any significant issue. His voting record was rather weak. If you looked at, let's say, the various Heritage Foundation or the Conservative Review with Daniel Horowitz, he has a nice way of assessing candidates, which is what I mainly use. He's about the weakest that can be. So he's a rhino. So the only way that we can transform the Republican Party from what it is, which is a rather weak party, let's face it, is during the primary season. We keep saying we got to primary him. So that's what I did. But it's very hard to do a takeout on an incumbent. It's an uphill battle. I tried 2 times and, we got 35%. That just is not going to cut it. So I just waited it out. And then when he decided he's not going to run again, then I jumped in. So it's an open seat. So,
and this is a really interesting year for that because this is the year that the conservative wing of the party has made up their mind that they're going to grab the reins and take control. And you can see that in all of the precinct committeeman races, because all over the state of Indiana, the ballot is just full of PC races and races for state delegate. So, and a lot of those are coming out of that conservative wing. So it's kind of the year for everybody to be fed up with the system the way it's been, and that it's time for there to be a change. So you're kind of right in, or I guess actually that is following behind you in your approach to wanting to be a conservative voice for us.
Yeah, you need well, by the way, before I forget, now you did say the magic word, the Freedom Caucus. So I am going to just mention that I have been endorsed by Chairman Bob Good. He is the chairman, I should say, of the Freedom Caucus. So that's your conservative wing of the Republican Party. Now, I have said before, there should not be a conservative wing of the Republican Party. The whole party should be the Freedom Caucus, but we're not there yet. But anyway, as the leader of the conservative wing, if you will, the Freedom Caucus of the Republican Conference in Congress, I've been endorsed. So that to me is as good as it gets, short of a President Trump endorsement, which we're seeking as well. We hope maybe we'll get that too. I mean, that's numero uno. But short of that, we're very happy that we got Bob Good's Freedom Caucus endorsement. So I'll mention that as well.
All right, and I'd say that everybody running in this 8th district race right now would all love to get that Trump endorsement, obviously, because everybody's trying. They're all doing their best to find a snapshot of them standing next to him, or some other way of indicating that they're pals with Donald Trump somehow.
Well, I would say this: I did grow up in the Bronx, so it'd be a New Yorker to a New Yorker. Maybe I've got an edge there, who knows? But, I used to say in my speeches, campaign speeches, when I got to the UN, one of my favorite topics, I used to say, and I still say now, that, I despise and loathe the United Nations. They're just a real carbuncle on the hide of our country. We need to get out of that corrupt institution, that anti-American, anti-Semitic organization. We need to kick them the hell out of the country. They can go to Iran or to China, some country they like. And I would ask President Trump to come up and convert the entire building into condominiums. That would be the perfect justice for the United Nations.
What do you think of all of the stuff that's going on the college campuses now? You kind of open the door a little bit to that. So what are your thoughts there on the right approach and just what's going on there in general?
Yeah, well, it's an immigration issue, but let's face it, this is like BLM, Antifa from 2020, part two. It's all Soros funded. A lot of big left-wing donors, some of whom I'm ashamed to say are Jewish, like Soros. As a Jew, I can say that. So go ahead and accuse me of being an anti-Semite, which is what they tend to do. But that guy is the devil incarnate. And unfortunately, he's, has good business judgment, and he's super rich. And he is a total left-winger, anti-Israel, anti-American, and he's funding a lot of this, just like BLM and Antifa. So it's a repeat of that, and it's going to get worse, just to let everyone know. This is a warm-up for the election. All right. So they're kind of rehearsing things right now. But, a lot of that could be broken up by strong police work. Break it up. The other part, no encampments, no tents, just break it up and that's it. Start arresting, start expelling, and as well as, a lot of them are student visas from, these great places like, the West Bank. I mean, they love it so much. It's such a great place. The West Bank, what we call Judea and Samaria, and Gaza, those are paradises, right? It's so good that they left it like, what's her name? Ilhan Omar from Somalia. She comes to our country. We rescue her. She's a refugee. She comes here, nothing but contempt for America. Well, it's the same thing with these Palestinians. Do them a favor, send them back to their revoke their visa, leave the country in 2 or 3 days, and get the hell out of here. Break this thing up, handle it with a strong hand. It's not calling for violence, just normal police work. Get them out, send them home, and break it up. And that's how you handle this. But believe me, it's going to get worse over the summer and into the election season.
Yeah, IU didn't wait. They didn't give them time to put the tents up or anything. IU just ushered everybody out and off campus.
I'm proud to see that.
Yeah,
they need to keep it up. Don't play any games with these people. I mean, look, in my opinion, there's a little, we have to be, it gets into the immigration issue, but, who are we letting into our country? We should keep, and that goes for student visas, let alone, the whole family reunification, chain migration situation with legal immigration. That to me has to be changed totally. And then obviously the illegal, the invasion on our southern border is terrible. And I am pro-Trump on that. He started to talk about it, in 2015. But I am going to say I've been an immigration hawk and talking about this for 20 years. I've got essays and columns and so forth, speeches I've given going back, more than 15 years ago, up to 20 years ago about the issue of immigration. So I've been an immigration hawk, but I'm glad for 20 years, and I've got the columns out there to prove it. So I've been aware that this is a problem, and it's both illegal but legal as well. Immigration is very simple. It has to serve the national interest. We're not there to do it as charity to people or as a favor to other countries. Immigration should serve the national interest. So obviously, we want to bring in Nobel Prize level talent. Yeah, sure. You got special insights, special business acumen, special skill sets and training and background and business experience. And all of these things would be great assets to the country. That's not who's coming into the country. Mm-hmm. They're really people, I would say, from the third world who have no skills, no education. They're going to go on our welfare programs. They're going to steal jobs from American citizens. You've got to educate their children and divert resources from American citizen children there's no upside for America to let all these people in. But anyway, flipping back to the whole thing on our college campuses, a lot of that is an immigration issue. And we got to just stop with the student visas to everybody. You know, we've got, try to think of it. We have 300,000 Chinese students. Now try to imagine during the Cold War, would we have let one or two students from the Soviet Union study in our union? I mean, you know, and they're not taking gender studies. They're doing engineering and chemistry and physics, and, you know, all sorts of very important training that they're getting, stealing our talent, our knowledge, bringing it back to China. I would get rid of every student from China. I mean, I would assume they're there, you know, based on their connection and relationship with the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. They're stealing our technology and our knowledge. I mean, that's ridiculous. The first thing I would do would be to get rid of the Chinese students, because every one of them is there with the blessings of the CCP. And again, I would just bring the analogy back. Would we have let one or two or three students from the Soviet Union during the Cold War? Well, we got a Cold War now with the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. It makes no sense for us to be bringing in 300,000 students. And by the way, if the universities start squealing like stuck pigs, that's fine, because they're all left wing. Let them button up and tighten up. And guess what's going to be the first thing to go? All that DEI bull crap. Every last bit of that is out the door, because they can't afford all these bureaucrats. Because now we're tightening up, and I'd defund the universities until they start getting rid of all these radical professors and these radical students. So anyway, that's a long-winded answer. But we got a long ways to go in terms of immigration. And one of the big things is these student visas. And I don't see how it makes sense in the middle of a Cold War. China, which makes fentanyl, brings it into our country through illegal aliens, killing 100,000 Americans a year. How does it make sense to do any favors for them? They're an enemy. They're following the laws, the guidance, the wisdom of Sun Tzu, 400 BC. The art of war, fight without fighting. That's what fentanyl is about. Killing Americans. A lot of people don't realize about the fentanyl deal. Just so you understand, Americans don't buy fentanyl. We use fentanyl in when we put patients to sleep, and it's like tiny amounts. Nobody goes out and says, "Let me get a bunch of fentanyl." It's laced in commonly used medicines like Ativan and Adderall for the purpose of killing Americans. So they've killed in 1 year more than what died in our Vietnam War, Korean War combined. That's every year. So they've got. And by the way, we need to go after, okay, I'm flipping around a little bit, but we're moving quick. We need to go after, the way they're weaponizing the legal system, going after President Trump with these totally, if I can use this analogy, phrase, trumped up charges, no pun at all intended, but totally trumped up charges, accounting errors and ridiculous things, not crimes at all. One was looked at as a business expense, so they think it's a campaign expense, but all right, so he'll pay the tax on it. That's a misdemeanor. They got it worked. We need to, the way they're aggressively weaponizing our legal system, going after a former president, President Trump, and the obvious presumptive nominee for the Republican Party to become president and to serve a second term. They stole, I should say, his second term in 2020. But all right, he's running again, and the polls are looking good, but who knows what they're up to. But anyway, weaponizing, we need to do to them what they've done to us. They have weaponized our legal system against President Trump. We need to return the favor and go after him, not for little accounting errors, but for Joe Biden being responsible for 400,000 deaths from fentanyl because he refused to enforce the border and to build a wall and to keep the illegal aliens out of the country. And we need to show them that we can play as rough as they can. The only way you're going to get them to stop doing what they're doing is to do to them what they do to us. And we need to go after Biden and his whole family once Trump is back in with his DOJ going after them for completely legitimate reasons. 400,000 American deaths for fentanyl that could have been prevented, made by his good friends in China. He's paying them back for all the bribes he took. We need to go after him very aggressively, the same way they've gone after Trump, but not for ridiculous charges, for legitimate charges of the deaths of hundreds of thousands of Americans, not to mention the deaths in Afghanistan with that ridiculous debacle of a withdrawal that we went through, and then other situations as well.
So do you think that the Republicans stand a chance of getting a majority in the House and the Senate this year?
God willing, I think they have a chance, and the country has to have that. I mean, again, God willing, I would say yes, they have a chance, and I obviously we're hoping for that.
It could be a pretty rough next few years if that balance flips the other way.
Oh yeah, well, no, we cannot. The country will not. When you look at the damage that has been done to this country, I mean, I didn't know that one man can do, and his, Joe Biden and his radical administration and his party, radical leftist Democrats, I don't know that any of us anticipated the damage they were going to do to this country. But damage they have done. This country can hardly stand another 4 years, and I mean it. I think it'll be goodbye for America. So yeah, we've got to take this. This next election we have to win. But remember, if the crap hits the fan, remember my red state manifesto. We do control the red states. Try to imagine if we had 20 Floridas, 20 DeSantis, every bit as aggressive as DeSantis. He doesn't take any crap from them.
Right.
We really respect Governor DeSantis. Try to imagine, again, we got the rhino problem. There's no other Republicans governors that are like him. But try to imagine if we had all of our governors like him, this would be a different country. So that's our fallback plan. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we want to win it at the national, federal level, sure. But remember, we have red states, and we got to do what we're trying to do at the federal level. We have to do at state levels, and where we have the trifecta, both houses and the governor. Come on, why? I mean, we're talking about 75, 80% majorities in these red states. It's a shame that we're not doing better. Why there's only one state, one governor that is doing it. So we've got to really get the red states moving as well.
And I think that comes from the grassroots level. We see the people, not only in the precinct committeeman positions, but delegates to conventions that are going to pull the reins back on the just absolute freak show that we have in within the Republican Party. We've got big issues there, and if the people don't become involved enough to make that change, we're going to keep replicating the same problems over and over and over again. So this is really a crucial time for involvement. It's about getting out to vote, and it's about becoming involved and being a part of the party to work towards solving the problems.
Well, that's our system, actually. It's our constitutional system is meant to do that, to delegate and disperse power back to the states, and then in turn back to the local levels, and finally to the civil society, to individuals, their families, and individuals. So yeah, we could take the bull. What is it? The horn by the reins?
Bull by the horn.
The bull by the horns, right? And yeah, sure, at the local level, local. Before Bouchon decided not to run, I started a grassroots organization called Frontline Freedom 1776. And anyway, now I'm running for Congress, so I don't have time to really pursue that too much right now. But yeah, I'm all about grassroots. That's where it's got to come from. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, and that means, first of all, getting to the polls. This election is about so much more. In Indiana, we tend to feel like our vote doesn't matter because the presidential side of things are already determined by the time that we get a chance to vote in the primary. But it's not just the president. It's our governor for the state of Indiana. Out of those 6, there are a couple of really good quality candidates in that field for governor. But not all of them are. And it's up to you to decide who you like or who you think is going to be that quality candidate. With the 8th district congressional race, absolutely, there are good quality candidates in there. And there are some people who just kind of get by, for lack of a better term for it. So you really have decisions to make. And it's not just whether you're going to vote for Donald Trump or not. It's really all about these regional and local races that are taking place. Our county commission race here has gotten hot, and there's a lot on the line for that. All of our local races have significance to them. So I can't urge this enough for people to get to the polls May 7th, if you haven't done so already, and cast that vote.
I just want you to know at the local level, and I mean local, school boards, county councils, city councils, you can run for those offices. You don't have to go anywhere far away to Indy or DC. That's right here in town. I'd encourage that as well.
Before we wrap up, I do want to compliment you on your mailers. All right, your direct mail pieces, because there's more information on those than any that I've seen. And I've been a proponent all the way through this campaign of, don't tell me why not to vote for the other guy. Explain to me why I should vote for you. And so you've sent out direct mail pieces that contain a lot of copy and a lot of information that give people a reason to pick you. And so, and I want to compliment you on that, because there aren't a lot of candidates to do that. They want to do the bullet points, and I don't want to explain things very much.
Well, I just will tell you, immigration is the issue. I agree with President Trump. Seal the damn border, and I'll take it a step further. We got to do a major roundup and deportation. Everyone that came in, especially in the last 3-4 years under Biden, they got to go. There's a lot of criminals in there, terrorists, and I can tell you every one of them is on the welfare system. They're a big drain, and who knows, and again, many criminals and terrorists as well. That's the number one issue. And I am a big supporter of President Trump. But we cover the full gamut. I think I will not disappoint your audience, your listenership, with my policies, because I'm right down the line. Yes, pro-Trump. But again, I've been an immigration hawk for 20 years. I've been on this issue. I got a long record on this. And again, we talked about COVID and other issues as well. Cultural issues, just to say, I am strong on, a lot of Republicans are very squeamish when it comes to the cultural issues. I am not. I will just say this, when you lose the culture, you lost the politics. You got to win the culture. Traditional intact married families between a man and a woman, and support strong families, support religion, the church. That's your civil society. If you're going to have a small government, you got to have a strong civil society. Good, strong families, not broken, dysfunctional families, and strong church communities. That's what you got to have. That's your civil society. Then you don't need the government, because they got to be there to pick up all the pieces if, you got broken families and welfare and drugs and criminals and the whole thing. So strong families is the key, and I will fight for those issues as well.
All right. Well, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it, Dr. Boss.
Hey, my pleasure.
Really enjoyed talking to you. Be sure that you like and share this podcast so that other people get access to this information. Subscribe so you don't miss any of our upcoming episodes. Still some good ones on the way. And be sure that you vote on May 7th. Thanks for joining us for This Week in Evansville.